Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Let's look into the first question. Which of the following is correctly matched? Operation Devi Shakti, India's evacuation mission from Afghanistan, Operation Dost, search and rescue operation initiated by Government of India to aid Syria and Turkey, Operation Ganga, initiative to bring Indian standard in Ukraine, Operation Maitri, rescue and relief operation in Nepal by the Government of India. Which of these are correctly matched? The answer for this is 1, 2, 3 and 4. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to Operation Dost. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When you look into the first statement, it speaks about Operation Devi Shakti. This is India's evacuation mission from Afghanistan. Immediately as soon as Taliban took over, there were few Indians who were stranded in Afghanistan. Bringing them back was one of the evacuation programs taken by the government of India. So to bring back Indians when Taliban took over, what we had was Operation Devi Shakti. Operation Dost is the search and rescue operation initiated by the government of India to aid Syria and Turkey. We recently know that earthquakes strike the countries of Syria and Turkey. So what has the government of India done? India has sent army medical team, national disaster relief force as well as the medical supplies as well. So in the medical team, what we also have is specialist teams that deals with orthopedic surgicals. They also deal with general medicine as well, and we also have medical specialist team as part of this initiative. So India in the past has also taken several other initiatives as well. Then we have Operation Ganga, which is an initiative to bring back Indian standard in Ukraine. So the minute there was invasion of Ukraine by Russia, what we had is many Indians who were studying in Ukraine. You had large number of medical students who were also studying in Ukraine as well. They were stranded. They had to walk long distances to bring them back to India. What we had is Operation Ganga. Finally, what we have is Operation Maitri, which happens to be the rescue and relief operation in Nepal by the government of India when earthquakes strike Nepal. This was also a period where India provided disaster relief. And as part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section what is Operation Castor, what is Operation Rainbow. Please put it on the comment section. Now let's look into the next practice question. India is a signatory to or part of which of the following convention or groups? Australia Group, Biological Weapons Convention, Chemical Weapons Convention, Convention on Cluster Munitions, Wassenaar Arrangement. Which of them is India part of or signatory to? The answer to this is 1, 2, 3 and 5 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to chemical and biological warfare. So remember, we have India which is signatory to Biological Convention as well as the Chemical Weapons Convention. So which are India part of? We have the Australia Group which India is part of, Biological Weapons Convention, Chemical Weapons Convention to which India is signatory to, and the Wassenaar Arrangement, India is part of it as well. However, when it comes to the Convention on Cluster Munitions, India is not part of or it has not signed the convention and is not party to the Convention on Cluster Munitions. So remember, India is not part of or it is not signatory to Convention on the Cluster Munitions. What is this article speaking about? This article currently goes on to say that we have been seeing number of biological issues that have been arising. People have been employing these biological weapons, and at the same time there have been nerve agents that have been used by Russia in couple of countries as well. So they are also violating Chemical Weapons Convention. In this particular backdrop, what if there is an eventuality? What if there is a disturbing scenario or a circumstance may arise because of the biological warfare or the chemical warfare? In this particular eventuality, we should be ready to take them on as well. So what we have is one of the exercise called as Tarkash. So remember, Tarkash can also be very important from the preliminary examination point of view. This is an exercise by the National Security Guard and the US Special Operation Forces that is currently underway in Chennai. So remember, Tarkash happens to be an exercise between India and United States of America so that we are capable of handling any biological warfare or the chemical warfare or even nukes as well. So this article goes on to say that the exercise comes in the backdrop of Russian allegations against Ukraine that had orchestrated a chemical attack. Sources said that various counter terror drills have been carried out during the Chennai exercise. A drill to conduct chemical and biological attacks by terrorists was also included, and the joint exercise for the first time simulated a validation exercise for chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear terror response mission. During the mock validation exercise, a terrorist organization armed with chemical agents threatened to attack a convention hall during a summit, and the objective of the teams was to rapidly neutralize the terrorists, rescue the hostages safely, and deactivate the chemical weapons. So this was an exercise so that they are ready and are prepared to go against these biological warfares and the chemical warfares. Now let's look into the next practice question. The National Commission for Religious and Linguistic Minorities was constituted under the leadership of Justice Markandeya Kajju, Justice S. Rajendra Babu, Justice Ranganath Mishra, Justice R. M. Lodha. The answer to this is Justice Ranganath Mishra. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to Ranganath Mishra Commission report of 2007. So if we look into this practice question, we have the National Commission for Religious and Linguistic Minorities. This was constituted by the Government of India when this was constituted in the year 2004. Why was it constituted? That is because they had to look into various issues relating to the linguistic and the religious minorities in the country. So what are the problems faced by the linguistic and the religious minorities? How can we address them? What are the issues that these people face? All this was to be studied by this particular commission headed by Ranganath Mishra, and ultimately this report had to be given to the Government of India. So what are the terms of the reference? One is to identify the criteria for identification of such people, and once it is identified, what are the welfare schemes and programs that we are going to bring into picture so that these people are empowered, and over a period of time, what are the changes that we have to introduce on the policy front? Do we have to bring a change on the constitutional front, law front, rule front? Is what was the terms of the reference. So this commission will look into it and ultimately give its report to the Government of India. So the government did appoint this commission, and in 2007 this particular report was also given to the Government of India. According to it, it went on to say a certain percentage of reservation will have to be given to the religious minorities within the OBCs, and at the same time 10% quota for the Muslims, 5% for other minorities in government jobs and in seats in higher educational institutions are some of the key recommendations given by the National Commission for Religious and Linguistic Minorities. Further, we have the mention of Sachar Committee report. The Sachar Committee report was constituted in the year 2005 by Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. The committee was headed by the former Chief Justice of Delhi High Court Rajendra Sachar for what? To study the socio-economic educational conditions of the Muslims in India. What did this committee say? The committee went on to highlight that the Muslims have poor representation when it comes to the police forces. It also highlighted huge mismatch when it comes to the percentage of Muslims in the decision making positions such as the IAS and IPS, so on and so forth. So what were the recommendations given by the committee? One is to create a nomination procedure to increase the participation of the minorities in the public bodies, and at the same time they have to create equal opportunity commission for what? To look into the grievances of the deprived groups in the minorities. These were some of the recommendations given by the Sachar committee. Now let's look into the next practice question. With respect to giant meter wave radio telescope, which of the following statements are correct? It is an array of 30 fully steerable parabolic radio telescopes of 45-meter diameter. It is operated by the National Center for Radio Astrophysics, a part of the Indian Institute of Science. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is one only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Indian Express makes a reference to GMRT, which is nothing but Giant Meter Wave Radio Telescope. Let us try and understand what are these statements. When you look into the first statement, yes, the first statement is right. It is an array of 30 fully steerable parabolic radio telescopes of 45-meter diameter. But the second statement is wrong. It is not part of Indian Institute of Science, but instead it is part of Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. It was conceived and built under the supervision of Professor Govind Swarup from 1984 to 1996. Where is it located? It is located in Pune, while its office is located in Savitribai Phule, Pune University. Astronomers from all over the world regularly use this telescope to observe many different astronomical objects such as HII regions, galaxies, pulsars, supernova, sun and the solar system. And the GMRT happens to be an indigenous project, and the design is based on what is being called as a SMART concept, which stands for stretch mesh attached to rope trusses. Why was this site in Pune picked up? That is because of low man-made radio noise, availability of good communication, vicinity of industrial, educational and other infrastructure, and a geographical latitude sufficiently north of the geomagnetic equator in order to have a reasonably quiet ionosphere and yet to be able to observe a good part of the southern sky as well, which is why Pune was decided as the place for the establishment of the GMRT. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements. Either of two belts over the oceans at about 30° to 35° north and south latitudes is known as horse latitude. Horse latitudes are low pressure belts. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is one only. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2007. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is Article 105 of the Indian Constitution. Let us try and understand what is this all about. What does Article 105 speak about? It speaks about powers, privileges of the House of the Parliament and the members and committees. So what does it mean? We have the members of the Parliament both in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. These members of the Parliament are given certain privileges which is emanating from Article 105 of the Indian Constitution. Clause 1 says, subject to the provisions of this constitution and the rules and standing orders regulating the procedure of the parliament, there shall be freedom of speech in parliament. So it clearly identifies MP should be able to speak, take up any issues and voice out their concerns and bring about multiple issues of their constituency and speak in the parliament. That is the first clause. The second clause reads, no member of the parliament shall be liable to any proceedings in any court in respect of anything said or any oath given by him in parliament. What does this mean? Let's say for example we have a member of parliament. The member of parliament may be from the government, they can be from opposition or any political party. So this person starts speaking about another person in a defamatory sense. Let's say we have the member of parliament speaking about Adani or any other person in a defamatory sense. Can Adani file a defamation against the member of parliament? No. This is where it goes on to say that if the person so decides to file a defamation case in the court of law, that will not be acceptable because this privilege, freedom of speech, is given to the member of parliament. So whatever he utters within the parliament, the same cannot be brought in front of the court of law. Even if it is defamation, he's spoken something bad as well, that cannot be brought in front of the court of law, is the second clause. So whatever the person speaks in the parliament, within the premise, within the proceedings is on, the same case cannot be brought before the court of law, is the second one. Now let's look into the third clause. In other aspects, the powers, privileges and immunities of each house of the parliament and of the members and the committees of each house shall be such as may from time to time be defined by Parliament by law. What does this mean? This means that a person cannot speak anything and everything on the floor of the House in the proceedings of the Parliament, which means the Parliament can come up with a law. Then you also have houses which have come up with their rules as well. So these rules will ultimately make sure that there is a check that is kept on the utterances of the parliamentarians. So what we have is the rules of the procedure, conduct of the business in the Lok Sabha. We also have Rule 380 as well. We also have Rule 381 in the Lok Sabha. Similar such rules are also present in Rajya Sabha as well. In the Lok Sabha, we have the speaker who would be able to take action against the parliament. The House can also take action against the member of the parliament. Similarly, in Rajya Sabha, we have the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha who would be able to take the action. Now let's look into the fourth clause. The provisions of the clause shall apply in relation to persons who by virtue of this constitution have the right to speak in. What does this mean? This means that we also have the Attorney General. If the Attorney General comes up to the Parliament, he starts speaking. Is he entitled to all these privileges? Yes. Added to it, we also have an exception as well. Restriction on discussion in Parliament, where no discussion shall take place in Parliament with respect to the conduct of any judge of the Supreme Court or of a High Court in discharge of his duties, except upon a motion for representing an address to the President praying for the removal of the judge as herein, which means that they can speak on anything and everything, but what with respect to conduct of the Supreme Court and the High Court judges. Rule 380 of the Rules of Procedure and Conduct of Business in the Lok Sabha says, if the Speaker is of the opinion that words have been used in debate which are defamatory or indecent or unparliamentary or undignified, the Speaker may, while exercising discretion, order that such words be expunged from the proceedings of the House. What does this mean? This means that such words will be deleted, which means that such words will be erased. So expunged portion of the proceedings cease to exist in the records of the Parliament and they can no longer be reported by the media houses. And all of this is taken from the Government of India Act of 1935. So we have Article 105, which has its derivation from the Government of India Act of 1935, first brought this provision to India with references to the powers and privileges enjoyed by the House of the Commons in Britain. So about the expunction, we also have Rule 381, which says that the portion of the proceedings of the House so expunged shall be marked with asterisks, and an explanatory footnote shall also be inserted in the proceedings as follows: expunged as ordered by the chair. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this topic. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.